Magic blooms only in rare souls.
This movie deals with the rise of an autocrat. I actually had a complete idea of who he was and what his story was, even though it never appeared in the Potter books. He's a sociopath.
Join me in this circle.
Grindelwald has succeeded in an almost cult-like devotion in his followers.
Pledge to me your eternal allegiance.
However disturbing his philosophy might be, he has this ability to dress it up in a way that's digestible and consumable.
If you're not paying a lot of attention to the substance and the inherent contradictions in what he's saying, it sounds very seductive, very plausible.
Queenie, you gotta wake up.
It can persuade people that you or I might consider good people.
Walk with me.
Grindelwald is mentioned for the very first time in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, so he was a character who was there from the beginning. He's this mysterious background character. The crimes of Grindelwald have historically been crimes of violence and terror. However, as we meet him in this movie, we also see what a genius he is at manipulation.
There's real darkness to him, and yet he's soft-spoken about it. There's a real kind of reserve. It's quite scary.
It would be very easy to just go in and play a guy just play him evil. But one of the things that Joe and David and I talked about was no one, no matter who they are, or how horrible they are, how evil they are, they don't wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and say, I'm gonna go out and do really bad things today. No, he's doing what he believes is right at whatever cost.
Obviously, the guiding principle was where Joe started, which was he's a bit of a rock star, i.e. he's charismatic, he's beguiling, he's troubled, he's a sociopath. And so I wanted to see how witty he could be, how dangerous he could be, and how compelling and convincing he could be. And so we tried a lot of different ways of doing certain scenes. And Johnny loved all that. He loved trying things.
We try one with the sort of maybe slightly menacing tone.
Despised entirely amongst wizards, unloved, mistreated, yet brave. So very brave.
And then we try one so flat that it's disturbing.
Brave. So very brave.
Try one that's a little more manipulative.
So very brave.
Try one that's maybe even kind of kind.
Unloved, mistreated, yet brave. So very brave.
We tried every which way but loose to see where he should be and land, because we were sort of figuring him out, really, as we went, as you do. So we would experiment even with a single line.
I don't like the idea of every take being the same. You should always change it up and take some risks. Even if they don't work, it's still important to take the risks, because it might.
So there are probably 3 or 4 different versions of Grindelwald in the hours of rushes that we have to the one that we ended up with.
I suppose ultimately, I thought that Grindelwald would be an exercise in stillness. I mean, the lines are important, but what's more important with Grindelwald is what's underneath the lines. It's the subtext of the lines. It's the dialogue that comes from his eyes. I have this one white eye. There's almost like a split, like a twin. And this is not anything that J.K. had written. It was just a choice that I'd made to be able to spin on a dime from the calm to the explosive, from the gentle to the brutal in a nanosecond.
So needy.
And so the look of Grindelwald became super important for finding the character. Putting those clothes on, you begin to stand a different way. You begin to move a different way. You reach for things in a different way. It's your suit of armor.
The Grindelwald name begged for a bit of an alpine twist. I've always loved Bavarian clothing and the punched leather and the detail embroidery, and I've always thought lederhosen was incredibly sexy. Johnny and I talked about it, and I said, I just have this idea I want to run by you, and he went for it.
I think I've worked with Colleen Atwood more than any other human being in cinema. We've ended up doing, I don't know how many films together. It seems like it's like about 18 films or something. We're super close.
We made the lederhosen a little bit longer. We coupled it with a tall boot. We had a couple Marilyn Manson conversations. You know, we went around the world. We went to a lot of places, as you do with somebody like Johnny. But we kept circling back and ended up with a slightly Bavaria meets the New Romantics.
We both sort of went for this idea almost like the Romantic poets, like Shelley and Byron. So we were sort of in that arena. And then it was all about how do we make him straight arms, straight, you know, everything absolutely perfect.
We've had a good run with this one, and no one is a more graceful kind of actor in a costume than Johnny.
The biggest challenging sequence in this film was the Grindelwald escape at night with rain and lightning and with Johnny Depp atop a carriage. That really was a sequence that had the most development through the whole prep, shoot and post period. Speaking to David Yates at the beginning of the journey of designing the sequence was to try and make it feel real, like we'd really photographed it, really got up there in the clouds. We knew that we'd have to pelt everybody with water and a lot of wind, but then every take Johnny stood there and was hosed down and was happy to sit there and did everything fantastic. We added the idea of broom riders as well. We kind of thought the idea about riders like you would have on a security detail and somebody being escorted out of New York. And I was determined that I just wanted the broom riding to look just real and not like somebody on a rig. And then Eunice came up with a great design for the stunt rig based upon what's called a tuning fork, a balancing rig. So we put a broom on it, and it meant that somebody could sit on it, and wherever they put their weight, it moved. So it just felt a bit more real. So it wasn't somebody moving them, it was them moving the rig.
We took a whole new avenue on all the broom riders, less mechanical, a lot more free.
Like sort of kick on, like just do a gesture in your shoulders as if you're ready to go.
We've advanced it now, and now we've got, well, basically they are riding brooms. It's great.
Each broom rider, we need 6 operators. We've got people lifting up and down, people actually steering it, people moving it from side to side, trying off all their tricks.
3, 2, 1, now!
Whoever's going to be riding it is going to get that real sensation of actually moving from side to side. That'll come across because you're not trying to pretend, you are actually getting to fly on a broomstick.
We had a part of the sequence that we designed where Grindelwald fills the carriage with water. So we came up with a dry for wet solution in our scanning rigs. When we photograph everybody, we do a thing what's called cross-polarizing all of our lights and all of the lenses on the cameras, which means it loses all of the reflections and any bright spots off of your face. It makes you look exactly like you do when you're underwater. And we had shot it all slow-mo, blew lots of wind at everybody, and got them to act. And there was one time when I was shooting on another unit and I walked in and Kevin Guthrie, who was Abernathy, was there in the middle of a take, and I was like, my God, he's holding his breath for a long time. And I was like, oh no, wait a minute, he's not underwater.
We knew that there was going to be some kind of rallying point, like a large-scale amphitheatre. Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris is a very famous cemetery, and we went there. It's up on a hill. It's almost like an amphitheatre of tombs around you. So Stuart took those ideas and put this amphitheatre underneath the tombs.
It's a classical amphitheatre of indeterminate age. It's in the truly classical style of ancient Rome.
Stuart doesn't do anything by half, so when you want an amphitheatre, you get a full 4,000 capacity amphitheatre with this Pantheon-esque roof. We've got these huge ravens, like 10 foot high, holding up the roof, because the Lestrange family symbol is a raven.
The birds themselves, they were just hand sculpted, then we moulded them, and then we cast them, because they're repeats.
There's layers to it as well, countless sarcophagi and vaults and different types of tombs, and when it's full of all the extras in their full wizarding gear, it's really cool.
As a face came in, I would see something in the face that I felt could become either a businessman that's gone astray, a disheartened worker. And in the ladies, there were the groupies. At one point, David said, think of it as a rock concert. And then there were people I dressed as auras, which I had the French auras and the British auras there. So it's a really interesting combination.
Grindelwald is much smarter than Voldemort. If you disagree with Voldemort, he just kills you. It's simple as that. There's not really a discussion. With Grindelwald, if you stand up and you object to what he's saying, he'll have you on side in about 10 minutes.
Oh, and what a world we would make for all of humanity. We who live for freedom, for truth, and for love.
That's what's really terrifying about Grindelwald. And he's smart enough to understand and appreciate that you have to win hearts and minds.
It's very clear what he's talking about. However, in his delivery, he never makes himself overtly horrid.
Why were we given this strange gift? Why us? Why not them?
Because they're scum!
We do not use those words here, friend.
In fact, in earlier iterations of the edit, we'd show it to an audience and people kind of went, yeah, I think he's got a point. You know, the wizards are locked out and, you know, they're having a tough time. They want to be free. I get that. And we were going, oh my God, people identify with Grindelwald. This can't be right. We've got to... So we actually made him scarier.
That is the enemy. Their arrogance. Their power lust.
I like the character. I really like the character. I'm interested in people, and I think there's a lot going on in this film.
Mr. Scamander, do you think Dumbledore will mourn for you?
It was such a great experience. I'm like the luckiest man in the world to have been chosen to play Grindelwald.